The snow hit Mara's face like tiny knives as she stumbled backward onto the frozen pavement. Her suitcase crashed beside her, splitting open and scattering her belongings across the icy ground. Christmas lights twinkled mockingly from the apartment building she had called home for 3 years. "Derek, please," she screamed, scrambling to her feet. "It's Christmas Eve. Where am I supposed to go?" Her fiancé stood in the doorway, his face twisted with disgust. Behind him, a woman wrapped in Mara's silk robe watched with cold satisfaction. "That's not my problem anymore," Derek said. "You should have thought about that before you embarrassed me in front of my family." "I embarrassed you. Your mother called me a gold digger at dinner. I defended myself." "You're dramatic, Mara. You've always been dramatic. Jessica understands how to behave in polite society." He nodded toward the woman behind him. "She's been understanding for the past 8 months." The words hit harder than the cold. 8 months. He had been cheating for 8 months while she planned their wedding, while she worked double shifts at the hospital to help pay for his business school. "My things," Mara said, her voice breaking. "At least let me get my things." Derek kicked her suitcase further into the snow. "That's everything you came with. Consider yourself lucky I'm even giving you that." The door slammed shut. Mara stood there, frozen in more ways than one. Her coat was inside. Her wallet was inside. Her phone had 3% battery. Seoul's Christmas Eve temperature was dropping to -15 degrees, and she was standing in a cocktail dress and heels because Derek had insisted she look presentable for his family dinner. She was going to die out here. If you are already hooked by this story, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss what happens next. Trust me, you are not ready for where this story goes. Mara gathered what she could from the snow, her fingers already numb. A sweater. Some underwear. A photo of her mother that she had brought from Nigeria when she moved to Seoul 5 years ago. She stuffed everything back into the broken suitcase and started walking. She had no destination. She just knew she had to keep moving or the cold would kill her. The streets were empty. Everyone was inside with their families, celebrating. Warm lights glowed from windows. She could hear laughter and music from the apartments above her. The loneliness was almost worse than the cold. Her phone died somewhere around the 3rd block. She kept walking. By the time she reached the Gangnam district, she could no longer feel her feet. Her lips had turned blue. Her thoughts were becoming sluggish, confused. She knew from her nursing training that these were the early signs of hypothermia. She needed to find shelter. Anywhere. That's when she saw the car. It was a black Rolls-Royce, sleek and menacing, parked outside an exclusive-looking building with no sign. 2 men in suits stood by the door, their breath visible in the cold air. They watched her approach with suspicious eyes. "Please," Mara managed to say through chattering teeth. "I just need to use a phone. Please. I'll freeze to death out here." The men exchanged glances. One of them laughed. "Get lost," he said in accented English. "This is private property. I'm begging you. I'm a nurse. I know what happens when the body temperature drops too low. I have maybe 30 minutes before I lose consciousness. Please." The man stepped forward threateningly. "I said get lost. Let her in." The voice came from behind them, deep and commanding. Both guards immediately stepped aside, their attitudes shifting from aggressive to deferential in an instant. A man emerged from the shadows of the doorway. Mara's breath caught, and not from the cold. He was tall for a Korean man, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that looked like they had been carved from marble. His dark hair was swept back from his face, and his eyes were the coldest she had ever seen. He wore an impeccable black suit with no coat, as if the freezing temperature did not affect him at all. But it was not his appearance that made her heart stop. It was the way the guards reacted to him. The fear in their eyes. The way they almost bowed. "Sir," one of them started, "she's just some homeless." "Did I ask for your opinion?" The guard shut his mouth immediately. The man in the suit studied Mara with those cold eyes, taking in her frozen appearance, her broken suitcase, her desperate expression. Something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? Interest? She could not tell. "You're dying," he said matter-of-factly. "I know. And you came here." "I didn't know where here was. I was just walking." He tilted his head slightly. "Do you know who I am?" "No." "Do you know what this place is?" "No. And right now, I don't care. I just need warmth. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave and never bother you again." A hint of a smile touched his lips. It did not reach his eyes. "Brave," he murmured. "Or stupid. I have not decided which." He stepped aside. "Come inside. If you die on my doorstep, it will create paperwork I don't want to deal with." Mara should have been afraid. Everything about this man screamed danger. But the cold had stripped away her ability to care about anything except survival. She walked past him into the building. The warmth hit her like a physical force. She gasped, her body immediately beginning to shake as it tried to regulate its temperature. The interior was unlike anything she had ever seen: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, dark wood paneling. It looked like a palace designed by someone who appreciated both luxury and intimidation. "Sit," the man commanded, gesturing to a leather sofa near a roaring fireplace. Mara sat. She was shaking so badly now that her teeth were clicking together. The man watched her for a moment, then shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She looked up at him in surprise. "Don't read into it," he said. "Your shivering is annoying." Despite everything, she almost laughed. "You have terrible bedside manner." "I'm not a doctor." "Neither am I tonight, apparently. Tonight I'm just a homeless woman freezing to death." He sat across from her, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert. "What happened? Does it matter?" "I'm curious. My fiancé threw me out. On Christmas Eve. For his mistress." "Why?" "Because I defended myself when his mother insulted me." Apparently, that was unforgivable. The man's expression did not change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "He threw you out without a coat. Without money. Without a phone. Without dignity too, but that's harder to see. In this weather, that's attempted murder." Mara had not thought of it that way. But he was right. Derek had known the temperature. He had known she had nowhere to go. He had thrown her out anyway. "What's his name?" the man asked. The question was casual, but Mara sensed it wasn't casual at all. "Why do you want to know?" "Curiosity." "You said that already." He smiled again, that cold smile that never reached his eyes. "You're observant. I like that. I'm also not going to give you his name so you can do something to him." "What makes you think I would do something?" Mara gestured around them. "The guards outside who are clearly more than guards. This building that has no sign. The way everyone treats you like you're a king. You're not a businessman. At least, not a legal one." Silence stretched between them. "You're right," he finally said. "I'm not." "Then what are you?" He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. This close, she could see the thin scar that ran along his jawline, the slight imperfection that made his handsome face human. "My name is Kang Jae-won," he said. "And I run the most powerful organization in Seoul." Mara's blood ran cold, but not from the temperature this time. She had heard that name before. Every foreigner living in Seoul had heard that name. Kang Jae-won, the ghost king of the Korean underworld. The man who controlled everything from the shadows. The man whose enemies had a habit of disappearing. She should run. She should thank him for the warmth and leave immediately. Instead, she said, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked. And because you're going to stay here tonight." "I never agreed to that. It wasn't a question." Mara stood up, letting his jacket fall from her shoulders. Her body had warmed enough that her survival instincts were kicking back in. "I appreciate your help, but I'm not staying anywhere against my will. I've had enough of men making decisions for me tonight." She started toward the door. "Wait." She didn't stop. "Your feet are bleeding through your shoes." That made her pause. She looked down. He was right. Her heels had torn into her frozen skin during the walk, and now that the numbness was fading, she could feel the pain. "You're a nurse," Jae-won continued. "You know you need medical attention. You know you can't survive another night on the streets. You know your only real option right now is to accept help from a stranger." He stood, walking toward her with slow, deliberate steps. "I'm offering you a warm room, medical treatment, and safety. For one night. In the morning, you can leave. I won't stop you. Why would you help me? You don't know me." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to meet his eyes. "Let's say I have a weakness for strong women who refuse to break. And if I refuse? Then I'll have my driver take you to the nearest hospital and drop you off. Your choice." Mara studied him. Every instinct told her this man was dangerous. But there was something else too, something almost vulnerable beneath the ice in his eyes. She thought about her options. The hospital would treat her feet and then release her. To what? She had no money, no phone, no one to call. Her family was in Nigeria. Her friends in Seoul were really Derek's friends, and after tonight, they would take his side. One night, she said. One night. She wasn't sure which of them was lying. Now listen, if you are enjoying this story, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button. It helps this video reach more people who love stories like this. And comment the word J1 if you're already obsessed with this mysterious Mafia king. Let's keep going. J1 had one of his staff, a severe-looking woman named Mrs. Park, take Mara to a guest room on the 3rd floor. The room was larger than her entire apartment with Derek. A massive bed dominated the space, covered in silk sheets. Fresh clothes had been laid out. A private bathroom gleamed with marble and gold fixtures. "The doctor will be here in 20 minutes, Mrs. Park said in crisp English. "Mr. Kang has requested that you eat something. Food will be delivered shortly. Mr. Kang thinks of everything. Mr. Kang is thorough. It's why he's still alive." With that ominous statement, Mrs. Park left. Mara showered quickly, washing away the sweat and tears and cold of the worst night of her life. When she emerged, she found a simple dinner of warm soup, rice, and various side dishes waiting on a table by the window. She ate ravenously, not realizing until now how hungry she was. The doctor arrived, an older Korean man who asked no questions and treated her feet with professional efficiency. Frostbite on 3 toes. Deep cuts on both heels. He bandaged everything, left medication for the pain, and departed as silently as he had come. Mara lay in the impossibly comfortable bed, staring at the ceiling. She should be sleeping. Her body was exhausted. But her mind would not stop. A knock on the door made her sit up. "Come in." It was J1. He had changed into more casual clothes, black pants and a dark sweater, but he still radiated that dangerous energy. "I wanted to make sure the doctor saw you," he said from the doorway. He did. "Thank you." "The frostbite?" "Minor. I'll keep my toes." "Good." He lingered, seeming uncertain for the first time since she had met him. "I had my people look into Derek Thompson." Mara's heart rate spiked. "I didn't give you his name." "I have many resources." "What did you find?" Jae-won stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. He's a business student at Seoul National University. From a wealthy American family. His father owns several companies with connections to my own businesses. The woman he's with tonight is Jessica Chen, daughter of a Hong Kong banker. A strategic relationship, then. More than that. He's been engaged to her for 6 months. Officially. The words took a moment to process. 6 months. But he was engaged to me. We announced it to his family. His Korean family. The Thompsons have 2 lives. The one here and the one in Hong Kong. You were only ever part of the first. Mara felt sick. I was never going to marry him. No. The wedding planning. The dress fittings. The deposits I paid with my own money. All part of the illusion. He was using you to maintain appearances in Seoul while building his real future in Hong Kong. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to breathe. She had given 3 years of her life to a man who had never intended to keep any of his promises. I'm going to be sick. No, you're not. Jae-won's voice was firm. You're going to be angry. Anger is useful. Nausea is not. She looked at him through her fingers. Is that how you handle betrayal? You skip straight to anger. I skip straight to revenge. Something about the way he said it made her lower her hands. What did you do? Nothing. Yet. He sat on the edge of the bed, maintaining a careful distance. But I could. If you wanted me to. Why would you do that for me? You don't know me. Jae-won was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than she had heard it. 15 years ago, my mother was thrown out of our home on Christmas Eve. My father had found a younger woman. He gave my mother nothing. No money. No belongings. Not even her coat. His jaw tightened. She froze to death before morning. The police found her in an alley 3 blocks from our house. Mara's heart broke. Jae-won. I was 14. I couldn't protect her then. But I built everything you see around you on a promise that no woman would ever suffer like that again. Not if I could prevent it. Is that why you let me in? That's why I let you in. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw fire beneath the ice. But it's not why I want you to stay. The air between them shifted. Mara felt it like electricity across her skin. Why do you want me to stay? She whispered. Because you walked into a den of wolves without flinching. Because you challenged me when my own men are afraid to meet my eyes. Because when you looked at me, you didn't see a monster. You saw a man. He reached out, almost touching her face, then pulled back. I don't know what that means yet. But I want to find out. Mara should have said no. She should have remembered everything she knew about who this man was and what he did. She should have thought about self-preservation and common sense. Instead, she said, I'll stay. But I have conditions. A surprised laugh escaped him. You're negotiating with me? You said you liked strong women. His smile, for the first time, reached his eyes. What are your conditions? I don't want to know about your business. I don't want to be involved in anything illegal. And if I decide to leave, you let me go. No questions. No complications. Done. That easy. I'm a businessman, Mara. I know a good deal when I see one. She extended her hand. He took it. His grip was warm and firm, and he held on just a moment longer than necessary. Welcome to my world, he said. Try not to burn it down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jae-won installed Mara in a permanent suite in his building, which she learned was the headquarters of his legitimate business, a massive real estate development company. The illegal operations were conducted elsewhere, in locations she deliberately did not ask about. True to his word, he kept her separate from that world. But he was also constantly present in ways that made her heart race. Breakfast together every morning. Dinner together every night. Long conversations about everything from Nigerian politics to Korean literature. He was brilliant, she discovered. Ruthlessly intelligent. He spoke 5 languages fluently and could quote philosophers from memory. But he was also damaged in ways she was only beginning to understand. One night, she found him in the gym at 3 a.m, beating a punching bag like it had personally offended him. His knuckles were bleeding. His eyes were wild. "Nightmare?" she asked from the doorway. He spun around, and for a split second, he looked at her like he didn't recognize her. Then his expression softened. "You should be sleeping. So should you." She walked toward him slowly, the way she would approach a wounded animal. "You want to talk about it?" "No." "Okay." She sat on a nearby bench. "I'll just sit here, then." "Why?" "Because you shouldn't be alone right now." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he sat beside her. They stayed like that in silence until the sun came up. Their relationship existed in the spaces between words. In the way he always knew when she was upset and would appear with her favorite tea. In the way she started keeping a first aid kit in her room because he refused to let anyone else treat his injuries. In the touches that lingered just a moment too long. But they never crossed the line. Until the night they did. Stop right there. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. This story is about to take a turn that you definitely don't want to miss. Hit that subscribe button and drop a fire emoji in the comments if you're ready for what happens next. It was Valentine's Day. Jae-won had taken her to a private restaurant overlooking the Han River. They were the only customers, he had rented the entire place. "You didn't have to do this," Mara said, even as she couldn't stop smiling. "I wanted to." "It's too much." "Nothing is too much for you." He said it simply, like it was an obvious fact. "I would give you the world if you asked for it." "I don't want the world." "Then what do you want?" She looked at him, this man who had saved her life, who had given her a home, who had shown her kindness when she expected cruelty. "You," she said. "I just want you." The kiss was inevitable. It had been building for months, and when their lips finally met, it felt like coming home. He kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. His hands tangled in her braids, pulling her closer, and she could feel his heart pounding against her own. "This is dangerous," he murmured against her lips. "I know. I have enemies who will use you against me. I know. I might not be able to protect you." She pulled back to look at him. "I'm not asking you to protect me. I'm asking you to love me." Something shattered behind his eyes. "I already do. God help me, I already do." They were together after that. Not publicly, Jae-won was too careful for that, but in every way that mattered. And for a while, Mara was happier than she had ever been. But trouble was coming. It started with Derek. He showed up at the building 6 months after Christmas, demanding to see Mara. The guards turned him away, but not before he saw her watching from a window. "This isn't over," he screamed at the building. "You're my property, Mara. You'll always be my property." Jae-won appeared beside her, his expression murderous. "Say the word, and he disappears." "No." She shook her head. "That's not who I want you to be. Not for me." "Then what do you want?" "I want him to know that I won. That I'm happy. That he has no power over me anymore." Jae-won considered this. "That can be arranged." 1 week later, the Thompson family's business dealings became front-page news. Corruption. Tax evasion. Illegal labor practices. Derek's father was arrested. Derek himself was deported back to America in disgrace. Jessica Chen's family withdrew from the engagement. "I didn't destroy him," Jae-won told Mara when she saw the headlines. I simply revealed who he already was. She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt free. But the victory was short-lived. Jae-won's enemies had been watching. They had seen his weakness. And on their one-year anniversary, they struck. Mara was leaving the hospital where she had returned to work. Jae-won had insisted she continue her career, when a black van pulled up beside her. Before she could scream, a cloth was pressed over her mouth, and everything went dark. She woke in a warehouse, tied to a chair. A man she didn't recognize stood before her, flanked by armed guards. Mrs. Kang, he said mockingly. Or should I say, the Mafia king's weakness. I'm not his wife. But you're his heart. And tonight, we're going to cut it out. The man, she learned his name was Yoo Sang-hoon, the leader of a rival organization, sent a video to Jae-won. Mara, bound and bloody, begging for her life. Except she wasn't begging. Don't come, she said into the camera, blood dripping from her split lip. It's a trap. They want you dead. Don't you dare come, Jae-won. Don't you dare. Sang-hoon backhanded her across the face. That's not very cooperative. I'm not a cooperative person. Then you'll die slowly. Mara looked directly at the camera. I love you, Jae-won. And I'm not afraid. What happened next became legend in Seoul's underworld. Jae-won came. Of course he came. But he didn't come alone. He brought an army. Every ally, every soldier, every favor he had ever been owed, he called them all in. The warehouse was surrounded. Sang-hoon's men were outnumbered 4-1. But he held the ace card, a gun pressed to Mara's head. One more step, and she dies, he shouted as Jae-won walked through the door alone. Jae-won stopped. His eyes found Mara's. She had never seen such fury, such terror, such love in one expression. Let her go, he said, his voice deadly calm. And I'll let you live. Sang-hoon laughed. You think I'm stupid? You'll kill me either way. No. I'll give you my word. In front of all my men. Let her go, and you walk out of here alive. Your word means nothing. My word is the only thing in this world that's worth anything. Ask anyone. Ask her. Sang-hoon hesitated. Mara saw the doubt in his eyes. She also saw the gun trembling slightly. He's telling the truth, she said. He keeps his promises. Always. Shut up. You can still survive this. But only if you let me go. Right now. The moment stretched into eternity. Then Sang-hoon made his decision. He shoved Mara forward and ran for the back exit. Jae-won caught her, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. You came, she whispered. I will always come for you. Your word. You gave your word. I know. He'll come back. He'll try again. Jae-won pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes were wet. Then we'll be ready. Together. Behind them, Sang-hoon escaped into the night. True to his word, Jae-won let him go. But some promises are meant to be broken by others. 3 months later, Sang-hoon was found dead in a Hong Kong alley. The murder was never solved. Jae-won was in Seoul the entire time, with a dozen witnesses. Mara never asked. Some questions are better left unanswered. 1 year after that, on Christmas Eve, Jae-won took Mara to the place where they first met. The same building. The same doorway. Snow was falling, just like before. Why are we here? She asked. He dropped to one knee. Because this is where I found you. Frozen and broken and more beautiful than anything I'd ever seen. This is where you walked into my world and made it worth living in. He pulled out a ring, a simple diamond on a gold band. Nothing flashy. Just elegant. Just like her. Mara Okonkwo, I am not a good man. I have done terrible things and I will do more. But I love you more than I have ever loved anything or anyone. I would burn the world down to keep you safe and build a new one just to see you smile. Tears were streaming down her face. Jae-won. Marry me. Be my wife. Be my queen. Let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Yes, she said through her tears. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that felt like both an ending and a beginning. From the doorway, the guards watched. Mrs. Park wiped her eyes and pretended she wasn't crying. Somewhere in the night, church bells began to ring. It was Christmas again. But this time, Mara wasn't lost. She was home. Their wedding was small. Private. Just close friends and trusted allies in a garden overlooking the sea. Mara wore traditional Nigerian fabric incorporated into a modern gown. Jae-won wore white, which his men teased him about for weeks. They built a life together, complicated and dangerous and full of love. Mara continued working as a nurse. Jae-won continued running his empire. And somewhere along the way, they found balance. Was it a fairy tale? No. Fairy tales don't include gunshots and bodyguards and knowing your husband has enemies who want him dead. But it was real. And it was theirs. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Mara stood on the balcony of their home, watching the snow fall over Seoul. Jae-won came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? He asked. That night. The night you found me. I didn't find you. You found me. She smiled, leaning back against his chest. I was dying. And now you're living. Now I'm living. He pressed a kiss to her temple. In her belly, their first child kicked. A little girl they would name after his mother. Merry Christmas, Mrs. Kang. Merry Christmas, my love. And if you made it to the end of this story, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button because I have so many more stories like this coming and you don't want to miss them. Second, smash that like button because it tells me you want more Afro-Korean romance and drama. And third, drop a comment telling me your favorite part of this story and what kind of story you want me to tell next.